When you stop trying to contact him, when you pull back, it's not just about the silence, it's about the weight of that silence. The absence of your presence starts to resonate in a way that shakes him deep down to his core. Men don't always show it, they don't always wear their emotions on their sleeves, but when you stop trying, when you stop reaching out, something inside of him shifts. It might be subtle at first, almost imperceptible, but over time it becomes undeniable. And that shift, that crack in the foundation, it's the beginning of a realization that might come far too late. Let me paint a picture for you. You've been the one making the effort. You've been the one sending the texts, making the calls, initiating the plans, doing what it takes to keep things going, to keep that connection alive. You've been consistent. You've been there. You've shown up. And in the beginning, it was reciprocated. But somewhere along the way, you stopped getting back what you were putting in. The effort, the enthusiasm, the energy has started to fade, and you noticed it. You noticed how the texts became fewer, how the conversations became shorter, how the responses became less heartfelt. And so you stopped. You stopped trying to reach out. You stopped contacting him. And in that moment, something happened. The dynamic changed and everything became different. A man, when you stop trying to contact him, is left with a decision to make. In the beginning, he might think it's just a phase. Maybe you're busy. Maybe you're upset. He'll tell himself she'll come around. He'll convince himself that it's nothing to worry about, that things will return to normal. But as the days turn into weeks and the silence grows heavier, he starts to feel it. He starts to question himself. Did I do something wrong? Did I mess this up? But pride, oh pride, it gets in the way. He doesn't want to admit that something might be wrong. He doesn't want to acknowledge that you've pulled back, that you've taken a step away from him. It stings. And it stings in a way that's hard to explain. You have to understand, when a man realizes you're no longer making the effort, there's a panic that sets in. He might not show it. He might mask it with indifference or sarcasm. He might act like he's fine, like he's unaffected, but deep down he's not. You see, men, they don't always express their emotions the way others do. They don't always wear their hearts on their sleeves. So when something hurts, when they feel a loss, they internalize it. They try to convince themselves it's nothing, but that's just a defense mechanism. Because deep down they know the truth. They've lost something important. They've lost you. And that truth, that realization, is more painful than they ever expected. But it's not just the loss of contact, not just the absence of messages or calls. It's the absence of you, of your energy, of your presence in their life. It's the way your laughter used to fill the room, the way your voice used to be a constant presence in their ear. It's the comfort of knowing you were there, ready to share moments, to build something together. And when that's gone, when you stop trying, they begin to feel a void that they don't know how to fill. Now, I want to talk about pride, because pride is powerful. It's a shield, a barrier that protects a man from showing vulnerability. And in this moment, when you stop trying to contact him, his pride might tell him not to reach out, not to come crawling back. His ego tells him, don't look desperate. Don't chase after something that's walking away. And so he holds back. He stays silent. He tells himself that he's fine, that he's okay without you, that he doesn't need you. But what pride doesn't realize, what pride often fails to understand, is that it's not about need, it's about connection. It's about the bond you two shared. And the more he holds on to that pride, the further the gap between you grows. And the longer that silence persists, the louder it becomes. It becomes a noise that rattles him, that shakes him to his core. You see, men often don't realize what they have until it's almost too late. They don't realize the value of your presence in their life until that presence is no longer there. And that's when the questions start. Did I take her for granted? Was I too slow to realize what she was giving me? Was I not paying attention? But by the time those questions come to mind, by the time he starts to reflect on what he's lost, it might already be too late to turn things around. And then comes the regret. Oh, the regret. It's the feeling that sits in his chest like a weight he can't shake. It doesn't matter how tough he is, how strong he appears on the outside. When you stop trying, when you stop reaching out, it creates a sense of emptiness inside of him. He might try to fill that emptiness with distractions, with other things, work, hobbies, friends, but nothing works. The absence of you, the absence of what you brought into his life, leaves a hole that he can't fill. He starts to realize just how much he relied on you, how much he took you for granted. And that's when the self-doubt creeps in. Was I good enough for her? Did I give her what she needed? Why didn't I show her more? But here's the thing, many men won't admit that to you. They won't come back and tell you, I messed up. I should have treated you better. I should have been more present. No. Instead, they'll try to justify their actions, try to play it off like it wasn't a big deal, like they don't care. But the truth is they do. They care more than they let on, more than they even understand themselves. And here's the truth that some men won't admit to: when you stop trying to contact him, when you pull away, it forces him to confront his own behavior. It forces him to reflect on what he's done, and more often than not, what he's failed to do. He's forced to recognize the things he could have done differently, the things he could have said, the moments he could have been there for you. But in the end, he has to face the consequences of his actions or his inaction. And what happens next? It varies. For some men, the realization comes too late. The regret becomes too much, and the opportunity to fix things slips away. For others, the wake-up call hits just in time. They recognize the error of their ways and they try to make amends. They reach out. They apologize. They seek to rebuild what they've lost. But that moment of realization is critical. Because once the silence sets in, once the distance becomes too great, it's no longer about who made the first move. It's no longer about who reached out first. It's about whether or not the connection can be rebuilt. Whether or not there's enough trust, enough vulnerability, enough willingness to put in the effort on both sides to make it work again. Now, for you, the one who stopped trying, the one who pulled back, you've made a decision. It's a decision that comes from a place of self-respect, a place where you recognize your own worth. You recognize that you deserve more than half-hearted attempts, than empty promises, than silence. You recognize that your time, your energy, and your love are valuable. And in stopping and pulling away, you've drawn a line in the sand. You've said, I'm not going to keep chasing after something that isn't being reciprocated. I deserve someone who sees me, who values me, who is willing to meet me halfway. And that's powerful. That's a moment of strength, of self-love. And let's be clear about one thing: when you stop trying, when you take a step back, it's not about giving up. It's not about walking away without a fight. It's about recognizing that you've done your part. You've given what you had to give, and now it's his turn. It's his turn to step up, to make the effort, to show that he values you, that he understands what's at stake. Because you are not someone who should be constantly chasing after someone's attention or affection. You deserve to be with someone who sees your worth, who meets you with the same energy, with the same level of commitment and love that you offer. So when you stop trying to contact a man, don't see it as giving up. See it as reclaiming your own power. See it as putting yourself first. Because at the end of the day, the one who is willing to step back, to stop reaching out, is the one who understands their own worth. And that's something no man should ever take for granted. And in that silence, in that absence, he'll either wake up and realize what he had, what he's lost, or he won't. And if he doesn't, well, then that's his loss. You'll move on stronger, wiser, more in tune with yourself, knowing that you are deserving of someone who doesn't need to be reminded of your worth, someone who sees it from the very beginning and never lets it slip away. So don't be afraid of the silence. Don't be afraid of pulling back when it's no longer being reciprocated. Because sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away and let the truth speak for itself. And in doing so, you may just find the peace, the clarity, and the love that you truly deserve.